And let's take you back now to that story where Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana, through their lawyers, are demanding that Showmax cease intent to air a documentary on them chasing a Bester. Let's speak now to Mpumelelo Zikalala, legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Zikalala. I wanted to point out that the legal representatives of Bester Magudumana are suggesting that this documentary can actually impede the ability of both to achieve a fair trial. Is this the most fundamental aspect of this case, do you think?
Good evening to your viewers. No, it's not actually. In fact, I think what they are missing is that when the matter is going to be adjudicated, it's going to be adjudicated in the court of law. There's a presiding officer who is going to decide the matter based on its merits, and using the tools which are available in assessing, mainly the South African Constitution and also the Criminal Procedure Act, but most importantly, ways in which evidence is then admitted and is to be taken to be assessed at a later stage by the court. Now, the court is not going to worry itself as to whatever the documentary is taking place. It's only going to deal with the things that are on record and things that have been accepted as evidence. So to make an assertion that is going to have any type of influence on the presiding officer taking on the matter, I think is something which is incorrect. Yes, it may have a perception on that, on us as members of the public, but when it comes to the court of law, it's a completely different story. And also within the public arena, you must remember that you have two competing rights that are here. You have the right of dignity, human dignity, which is available to both Mr. Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. And yet you also have the freedom of expression, which is then available explicitly when it comes to media and the publication of stories that they are. The one important thing, though, which must be maintained in all of this type of communications is that it must be the truth, and it can't be things which are incorrect. If they're able to achieve that, then whoever wants to broadcast the story of Dr. Magudumana and Mr. Bester will be doing something which is, according to the law, okay, just as long what they are saying is actually the truth.
Now, they say, that is Magudumana's lawyers, to Showmax, that one of the major claims that the website makes is that this documentary series will contain facts in what they say is a timely four-part investigation. And as we mentioned earlier on, the objection is that the two have not been interviewed, not only to lend facts to their claims, but also the process is still undergoing. Could there be a different interpretation legally of what would facts mean in this case?
Yes, there are a number of definitions that can be there. One, facts can be, I want to report as to what has happened based on what we have seen taking place within the media platforms. So it can't be denied that they were outside the country. It can't be denied that they were then taken back to the country, to South Africa, and then they were charged and that they are languishing in jail as we speak now, and also the various court appearances that they've done. So if you say facts and looking at those things, then you are telling the truth. But again, if you're looking at snippets of the documentary which has been taking place, it is mainly interviews from individuals that were covering the story or participants that may have wanted to share their own opinion. So it can't be said that there's now a distortion of any facts that are there. It can't be said that there's any distortion of the truth which is going to take place, which is one of the more reasons why I think they're even taking the stance of saying that we're not going to release anything to you. We're not going to concede anything to you, because all that we are doing is telling the facts and telling a story in the manner in which it was done, so in an accurate manner. And we do not need your permission to do so, despite the fact that you are the major players with the main subject lines when it comes to the story that we want to tell to South Africa. So it will depend mainly on what those facts are. But another thing that the court will look at if they go to court on an urgent basis to say, are there any other alternative remedies within our court of law? Are there any things that you can be able to use at a later stage in order to get reprieve? And the answer to that is yes. Criminally, defamation charges can be laid against the producers or anyone who's going to participate. Criminal injury charges can also be laid against anyone who's going to participate and say the wrong things. But again, on a civil action basis, you can sue them for damages and say, my reputation was ruined, we're telling something which is not the truth. and based on that, I've lost quite a bit of money, and compensate me and put me back in a position I would have been had that particular series had not been aired. So in this case, it's a clear act in which whatever the intended consequence is going to be, or the intended action, there are ways in which you can get reprieve and justice at the end of the day. It's just that if you want to try and prevent that now, it may be a bit difficult, and I don't think you're going to find willing participants on the other side to give the information that they have, because they're going to be worried from the commercialization part of things to say, once we've given you this footage, what exactly are you going to do with it? Are you going to take away the edge from us, the people that have been doing the production, to then sell it to the members of the public so that we're able to make a bit of money at the end of the day?
So they also bring up the fact that in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, their clients have not been granted the opportunity to plead to the charges before them, but they also go back to the issue of facts that may be revealed, that they may be prima facie severely prejudiced. Now, you mentioned that the system in itself insulates itself, particularly in terms of the presiding judges, and we don't have a jury system in South Africa, so those who've been watching, even though they made up their own mind, will not sway the outcome. But what is more important in maybe what I'm asking is the intent behind this documentary, because there are so many things mired in this. There is the criminal justice system in itself that South Africans are looking at, and the laxity of, particularly if we look at the correction centers and the various allegations that have been made. So when we talk about public interest, would that trump, in this case, what is going on?
I think it would, and let's define public interest in this perspective. Here we are talking about an event that has probably have not taken place before. And if it has, you maybe have less than 5 incidents that have taken place, and you are then dealing with prominent individuals. One who was convicted for a series of criminal charges that are the very serious one, by the way, and you have a prominent doctor that has placed or portrayed yourself out there in the media. Because you see, the minute you start to play with any media publication and portray yourself as someone who is sort of a public image, you then open the door of scrutiny, which can't be closed willy-nilly at your own discretion. Then the particular door has been open to be utilized by the media, whether you like it or not. So here, you are now dealing with Dr. Magudumana, who's a media personality, let's call it that, and a person who is of public or media interest. That alone, and all the other things of saying that maybe the documentary is going to focus on the educational aspect of saying what exactly happens within prison, the dangers of not following the law up till the T, the dangers or any corruption that may be exposed when it comes to private prisons, if we have some in South Africa, the laxity of the Department of Justice, for example, in handling and controlling how those prisons are actually going, and the manner in which prisoners are being treated. So there are a number of different aspects that can be investigated by the documentary, and you can't simply close it off and say, because the matter is still going to be dealt with in court, we can't really deal with it. Whether they've pleaded or not, it has no bearing whatsoever in the amount of information and the evidence or the facts that are going to be distributed or stated within the documentary. As stated earlier, it is the court of law that has a trained presiding officer who's going to sit in and listen using tools that are utilized on a daily basis as to how to assess the evidence, how to evaluate it, and how to place the correct weight on it, whether you want to determine whether someone is guilty or not.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Legal practitioner at Zikalala Attorneys, Mpumelelo Zikalala, just giving us analysis on that Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana's showdown with Showmax, refuting claims that it would be in the public's interest to show this documentary, Chasing Bester, about the whole saga and controversy around the escape.